Welcome to Living in Lansing, Michigan, where we talk about the good, the bad, and everything in between with life here in Lansing and the greater mid-Michigan area. Today, we're going to jump in and talk about commuting and travel around the Lansing area. But before we do, don't forget, like the video, subscribe to our channel, hit the notifications button down below so you can stay up to date on all the information we share about living in Lansing and moving to the area. So today, the ultimate guide on travel, commuting, and mass transit options here in the greater Lansing area. Let's dive in and let's talk about what traffic looks like, what your mass transit options are, and what it's like to get around in general. All right, let's dive in. Let's talk about commuting in the greater Lansing area. Before we get started on that though, don't forget, come back at the end because I'm going to talk about what it's like to travel around the whole state of Michigan out of the mid-Michigan area and how easy it is to really travel in Michigan. So whether you're coming from the Midwest or a big city like New York or LA, we've got all the information you're going to need for your move and what you can expect here in the greater Lansing area. So first, I want to touch on our highway system. And before I open up the map and give you a quick map tour of our freeways and highways here, I will just say, having lived across this country in the past, Mid-Michigan has really excellent freeway system. It is easy to drive and get around here. The only downside is it seems to always be construction season if it's not frozen. So we've got the I-69 freeway that connects the top side of the greater Lansing area to Flint in the northeast, and then connects back to the I-96 freeway going west to Grand Rapids, and then loops around the south side of the greater Lansing area and heads east back to Detroit. Once you get east back to Detroit, we'll talk about that later. Okay, here we are. So let's take a map tour around the freeway system that encompasses most of mid-Michigan, and then we'll take a look also at how those freeways connect you from mid-Michigan and the greater Lansing area into the rest of Michigan. You can see we're zoomed out kind of far here, but this is roughly what most people would consider the greater Lansing mid-Michigan area. If I go a little further, include St. John's there on the north end and Leslie on the south. So down here at the bottom, we've got Leslie, we've got Charlotte, which is about a 30-minute drive from the capital. St. John's is about a 30-minute drive north, Portland roughly 30 minutes west, and Williamston about 20 to 25 minutes east, Fowlerville about 30, and then Howell about 35 minutes east. So we've got two interstates that connect the greater Lansing area to the rest of Michigan, and then we've got the 127 highway, which we'll come back to. Let me zoom in a little bit, and you can see the city of Lansing is mostly here, trapped between I-69 on the north, I-96 on the south. 96 and 69 merge here on the west side of Lansing. 96 heads off to Portland and then to Grand Rapids. East of this 127 freeway, which is our north-south highway, you've got East Lansing, Hazlet, Okemos, and then further east, some of these other towns that are just off the I-96 freeway. Travel here in mid-Michigan is really easy unless we've got construction or an accident that shuts down one of our freeways. I-69, here that makes our north border of the Lansing area and divides North Lansing from DeWitt. If you watch and we zoom out, heads northeast out of the greater Lansing area and eventually plops you right into Flint, where I-69 merges up with I-75. I-75 comes out of the greater Detroit metropolitan area. Back over to Lansing, our other freeway, I-96, you can see here our southern border. This is the south side of Lansing, and south of the 96 is Holt and Diamondale. And then as you continue south down 127, you'll find yourself in Mason, which is the Ingham County seat. Now, I-96 on the west side of Lansing meets up with I-69. And I-69 then heads south and west past the towns of Potterville, then Charlotte, and eventually Olivet, and then at around the Marshall area, I-69 crosses I-94. I-94 is a big east-west interstate that links Detroit and Chicago. So that's how 69 takes you southwest out of the Lansing area. And here again on the west side of Lansing, where I-69 and 96 meet up, 96 then heads northwest from the Lansing area through the town of Portland and eventually all the way west into the city of Grand Rapids. So you can see with these two freeways, I-69 and I-96, we can travel around the greater Lansing area, but just around the outskirts of it. And then it will connect us back to Detroit, Flint, Battle Creek, Grand Rapids, the other larger metropolitan areas in the state. And then splitting the greater Lansing area with the north-south highway is the 127. So the 127 here, if you head south about 35 minutes, will land you in Jackson.
You can continue on 127 further south, but it gets you into Lake Country south of Jackson, and then eventually down towards the border with Indiana and Ohio. Moving back up the 127 highway into the Lansing area, you'll find that it continues north through the towns of St. John's, and then Ithaca, Alma, and you'll land in Mount Pleasant here where Central Michigan University is. The 127 then continues north through Clare, Harrison, past Houghton and Higgin Lake, and merges with the I-75 freeway that once again comes out of metropolitan Detroit. And where they merge, it becomes I-75, and that takes you all the way up to Mackinac City and the bridge that connects the lower and the upper peninsulas. So you have good travel in the Lansing area, but also our highways and interstates here connect us to the other parts of Michigan. One other highway to note is M43. M43, also known as Grand River, runs across the entire state, and it is actually the main drag through a lot of towns. If you track out M43 here, it continues and parallels I-96 a lot of the way, all the way down to the Metro Detroit area. And then when we track back the other way, M43 heads out west, merges here at M50, and then you can take 43 south, or you can take 50 north and west, and eventually you'll find yourself in the greater Grand Rapids area. Most people, though, traveling between the big metropolitan areas are going to use the interstates, I-96, I-69, or I-94, and then in other areas of the state, the I-75, 275 in the Detroit area, and heading up north. So that's a wrap on what our interstate and major highways are here in the greater Lansing area. Just know that if there's not construction traffic or weather or accident-related issues, it's really quick to get around here.
All right, so next we're going to jump in and we're going to take a quick tour of the greater Lansing area and our basically only option for mass transit, which is the CATA bus system. That's the Capital Area Transit Authority. And what I'm going to do is jump back on the Google map here, and I'm going to show you around to a couple of the stations and the hubs and some of the stops and what those lines look like. So let's jump back over to the map and let's look at what CATA has to offer for our mass transit here in Greater Lansing.
Okay, here we are on Google Maps again. And the Greater Lansing area only offers one true mass transit option, and that is the CATA bus system, Capital Area Transportation Authority. CATA operates across the entire greater Lansing area. It's not just contained to the city of Lansing or East Lansing. So I'll zoom you out in just a second and show you some of the stops on the bus line and some of the stations. But first we're zoomed in here right downtown by the Capitol because this is the hub for CATA. As you can see here, we've got the actual Capitol building, Lansing Lugnuts Baseball Stadium, Impression 5 Science Center, museums. A lot of what's going on in downtown is right in here between Larch and Walnut, and then Kalamazoo on the south side, Shiawassee on the north side, and the CATA bus main station is right here off of Kalamazoo. So I'm going to take you here to the CATA Transportation Center on Google Maps and show you what the building looks like. It's actually quite a beautiful building. Here you've got the lobby. And there's a few more pictures, the outside of the building. So it's quite nice. This is the main hub for CATA's bus system in the area. And again, it's right in downtown Lansing. Now, as you search CATA bus here, as you can see, I've searched, we can pop up a few other landmarks of note. Some of these are just bus stops or they're bus shelter stops, meaning they have a covered waiting area. There are a couple of other important areas. The transportation center on campus here in East Lansing is a hub for CATA bus as well. It's not the same as the downtown hub, but it's a hub that services East Lansing and the eastern area of the greater Lansing area, which is Meridian Township, Okemos, Hazlitt, and those areas. The bus lines run all the way out far to the east end, the greater Lansing area. Now, a couple other things to note. If I zoom in right here on Trowbridge Road, this is actually the Amtrak station. We have an Amtrak station here in East Lansing right off the 127 freeway. And so you can take the bus and get really close to the Amtrak station. And then I'll take us and show us North Lansing where the airport is. If you head up into North Lansing, you'll find the airport. And we've got also a bus stop right here by Peckham, which is one of the larger employers in the area. And so you can get around the area on dozens, probably hundreds of bus stops. Some are called shelters, meaning they have a cover over them, like this one here in South Lansing. Some are just a bus stop on the side of the road without a cover or a shelter. but the system covers the entire greater Lansing area and helps you get around. Now, when you're in town on the busy routes, they're going to move a lot quicker, meaning you're going to get pickups more often, drop-offs more often. As you get out here to some of the bus stops on the east side of the greater Lansing area, like near Okemos Mall, they're not going to run quite as often because there's not as much traffic. But there are still bus stops. There's one here in Okemos. There's the public library, and there's one right across the street from the public library. So there are a lot of options for taking the bus to different areas of the greater Lansing area, including important places like the library, large employers, the university, so on and so forth.
Okay, next we're going to jump in and talk about what's probably my favorite topic when we talk about commuting and getting around the area, which is walkability, bikeability. So in the city of Lansing, we've got the Lansing River Trail system, which is extensive. And then in Meridian Township and East Lansing, we've got their trail system. And all of these work really well, get around on foot for walking, biking, taking the dogs out or the kids in a stroller, whatever it is you want to do if you're looking to get exercise, but also to travel around the area. These extensive trail systems make that really easy to do and something that you may want to look into if you enjoy being outside, exercising outside, or just going for a stroll, a comfortable walk in the afternoon when the weather's good. So again, we'll jump over to Google Maps. I'm going to take you on a tour around the greater Lansing area and our trail system.
Okay, here we are back to our trusty Google Map view, and we're going to go and explore quickly the trail system in both Lansing and then Meridian Township and East Lansing. Starting in Lansing, we have the Lansing River Trail system, which, as the name implies, is along the Grand River in many areas, but not everywhere. And there's other trail systems maintained by the city of Lansing that connect to the Lansing River Trail system. So you can see here, we're going to zoom in, and a lot of this map is going to be really zoomed in so we can see the trail, but it's this green line here, and we're actually along the Red Cedar River here. The Red Cedar River flows from east of Williamston all the way through Meridian Township, across the campus of Michigan State, and then dumps into the Grand River in Lansing. Here's that confluence. That trail system runs to many of the parks in the city of Lansing. You can see here it's along the Red Cedar River, but then again, as we track out through the Red Cedar River, we're going through multiple parks that are connected by the trail system. And here the trail system splits. And so we pick up the Grand River here, but the trail system heads along the Grand River to the north and into downtown, and also goes along the Grand River. And this is heading upstream now into other parts of South Lansing and other parks. Here we have Morris Park and Moores River Drive, close to the governor's mansion. So then if we look, we'll jump into downtown right across the street from Lugnut Stadium, and just down the road from the Capitol here, we pick up the trail system again. And this is right next to Lansing Shuffle, which is an area you can go and eat and go out and enjoy Lansing's nightlife. But there's kayak rentals and areas where you can paddleboard and do all those fun things right here in downtown. And then the trail system continues north with the Grand River through Lansing. And as the river heads north and west through North Lansing, you can see we connect up into Dietrich Park here. And then we're going to jump over into East Lansing and Meridian Township, which is mostly on the east side of the 127 freeway. And we're going to take a look at the Meridian Township system of trails, which you'll see the red outline here of Meridian Township. This is East Lansing, and the trail system in Meridian Township ties into the trail system in East Lansing and then eventually connects back to the Lansing River Trail system. So as we zoom in on the Meridian Trail system, you'll see all the parks pop up. These are all the parks that are linked by the trail system. So for example, if I zoom in here on Hartrick Park, which is right next to Okemos High School, they actually, the ball fields are here on the side of the high school. Hartrick Park has trails that link back into the rest of the system. If you turn on the overhead layer, you will see right here next to the road is a trail. And you come to Hewlett Road, you come down the trail and you cross. Now we're tracking out this trail system here. It links into the Sunwind neighborhood and then comes back and crosses Okemos Road here to take you into some of the neighborhoods like here in the Briarwood neighborhood. Again, as we zoom out, you're going to see all these parks pinned because all these parks are connected in Meridian Township by the trail system. Again, it's our green line here. So we have a really extensive trail system in Meridian Township as well as the one in Lansing. And these all connect the township's parks and fields. You can see Central Park South here with a little fishing lake. Here's Central Park soccer field. And then here's the Meridian Township building. All these trails are linked so that you can jog, walk, bike around the area and not have to be on main roads. You can see the trail system here as it heads west is going to eventually link back up into the city of East Lansing, and the trails will continue and be able to eventually connect you to places like Patriarch Park in East Lansing and some of the other parks. And then you'll see that the trails also link you back onto campus, and you'll be able to run down the Red Cedar River and some of these trails across the Michigan State campus. So as we zoom out, again, you see all these park pins. Just know that there are hundreds of miles of trails in the greater mid-Michigan area, and almost all of them are linked, and most of them are paved, or if they're not paved, they're crushed rock and really well maintained. So you have the option to walk, run, jog, bike, push strollers. Most of them, if not all of them, are going to be pet friendly as well on a leash. If you have questions about the trail system, head over to Meridian Township's website or jump over to the City of Lansing's website and check out their websites specific to the trail systems and all the information that they have. Nicole, let's insert links to those two websites. If you need to get those links, get them from Martin.
All right, let's talk about parking. If you're from a big city, you know parking is a huge deal, and it's not bad. Lansing and the greater Lansing area is not a huge city. I consider it a small city, about 500,000 people in our metropolitan area, and parking is not really a big deal in most areas. We have pay parking in the city of Lansing, on-street parking, parking decks. We go into East Lansing to the university. We've got parking decks. We've got tons of parking lots. They have to be able to host many tens of thousands of people on football weekends. So if parking is something you're concerned about, I don't think you really need to be concerned. It's not like being in downtown New York City, and it's not expensive. Most places you can park by the hour for $1 to $2 or daily rates of up to $15 or $20. Okay, so Lansing has an airport. It's technically an international airport, but it's a moderately sized commuter airport for most people. Most flights in and out of Lansing are linking to just a couple of the local airports. So into Detroit or into Chicago or into Minneapolis, and then you'll connect your flight out of there. However, just recently opened a new airline started working here in the Lansing airport that has some direct flights to Florida and some other hot destinations for really affordable rates, $50 one way, $100 round trip. So we do have an airport here that can help you get around the state of Michigan, or more importantly, to other hubs in case you're traveling out of the area or back into the area. Okay, so I said stick around until the end and we talk about traveling in Michigan in general really quickly. We've got a really solid system of highways and interstates here. The big interstates in our area, in the greater Lansing area, is I-69. I-69 heads northeast up to Flint and ties back into the I-75 freeway, which runs out of Detroit all the way through Flint and Saginaw and eventually goes all the way up to the Mackinac Bridge and across into the Upper Peninsula. Back into the Lansing area, on the south side of Lansing, we've got the I-96 freeway. That freeway runs all the way east until it gets into the greater metropolitan area of Detroit and into that freeway system. And then 96 also runs west and loops north around the west side of greater Lansing area, pretty much the Grand Ledge and Delta Township area, and then heads out northwest towards Grand Rapids. Takes about an hour on that trip to get to Grand Rapids from the west side of Lansing. Then where 96 meets with I-69, I-69 bends and goes southwest, and that heads down towards Indiana and Chicago, but you'll run into the I-94 freeway eventually taking 69 south and west out of the greater Lansing area, and the I-94 freeway heads west across the bottom side of Michigan or back east into Detroit and ties back in near the airport, actually, which is southwest of Detroit proper. Those three freeways, 69, 96, and then 94 south of us, are what really allows you to get around the mid-Michigan area and into the other two big metropolitan areas, being Detroit and Grand Rapids. Heading north and south in the greater Lansing area is the 127 highway, which runs from basically Jackson area, north into Lansing area, north from Lansing into Mount Pleasant, where Central Michigan University is. And it keeps heading north up to what we call up north here in Michigan, which is Lake Country, and eventually ties back together with the I-75 freeway and takes you up to the Mackinac area and then across on I-75 again into the Upper Peninsula. Because we have these great interstates here and then 4-lane highways, it's really easy to get around Michigan. And what you're going to find when you move to Michigan is at some point you may want to go up north to visit, you may want to go up north and buy a cottage or a lake home, and getting there is going to be really easy because we have a great highway and interstate system that travels you around the state. So being right in the middle of Michigan, here in mid-Michigan and the capital, we are easily connected to almost everything you may want to do in Michigan, and you can get there probably 1 to 3 hours, basically anywhere you want to go in Michigan. There's a few areas that are far northeast or far northwest where it may be a little bit longer. And then if you go into the Upper Peninsula, it takes you roughly 3 to 3.5 hours to get to the bridge and cross into the Upper Peninsula. Once you're there, that's a whole nother video. Okay, so let's wrap it up. That's your travel here in the greater Lansing area. Mid-Michigan really is easy to get around if you've got a car. We have limited options for mass transit, really only the bus, but you probably don't need it. And we've got amazing walking trails, running trails, places that take the kids and the dogs out and get some exercise and enjoy truly the spectacular weather we have here for more than half the year. So if you're thinking about making that move to the Lansing area, know that you can probably get everywhere you need to go in town within 20 to 30 minutes tops. And you can get to our two big metropolitan areas in the state, being Grand Rapids in the west and Detroit in the east, in 1 hour to 1.5 hours. Easy travel here for somebody with a car. And if you're thinking about making that move here, you want to chat about that, you want to know more about travel and locations, neighborhoods that have great access to the trail system, or something else specific to travel or commuting here, just send us a message, drop a comment down below, or schedule a time to chat with us. We're here to make your move to the greater Lansing area smooth and seamless and provide you all the relevant information you need. So this is John with the Mint Home team at Keller Williams Realty. I hope the video has been really informative for you. And again, we look forward to helping you with your move to Lansing.